Good morning. Well, it's morning here when Chuck and I are recording this video. We're back in Carl's shop, and I want to show you how to make a little medallion and inlay it into a workpiece like this. Now, the reason for this is that when we did the pipe elbow on the 3D engraver, somebody named Scott got a hold of Chuck and says, "Hey, I got a similar machine and I don't get it to work right doing inlay work." And so I says, "Let me figure it out. I think it's your machine adjustment, but just in case, I will go ahead and learn how to do inlay, and then I can tell you if it's your machine or your technique." So today I'm going to show you the technique of making a medallion like this and inserting it into a cutout in a workpiece. The machine we're going to use this morning is the Gorton P1-2, which is their smaller two-dimensional machine. That is, it will engrave a flat piece. It will not do 3 dimensions. The cutter spindle is here, driven by a cotton belt. And here's the workpiece, mounted on a table that is itself mounted on a slide. So this has 2 directions, has X and Y, and then it has a knee. It's like a knee mill, and it goes up and down. So this is basically it's a vertical mill with a rather specialized head. A pantograph is a copying machine, and so it starts with an original mounted on the copy table, and the original is followed by a stylus. And here we see, I think you can see the little disc in the groove, and that is the stylus following the pattern. Okay, the key to the operation of a pantograph is this parallelogram reduction mechanism. We have the stylus over here, and way over here at my left is the spindle with the cutter. And here's what goes on. As we trace the pattern, all this stuff goes wiggling back and forth. The reduction is set by the location of these blocks on these reduction arms. There's a block here, and there's a block here on this arm. So one more time. Here's the hula action. Everything goes one way or another all together. Picking up a few details, Chuck asked me to comment on the setting of the reduction arms. These are engraved with the numbers indicating the reduction ratio. This would be for 3:1. That's a factory number. The previous owner of this machine went in and by hand engraved a whole bunch of other stuff, which just irritates me no end. But it was his machine at the time, and he obviously had a need for it. So you loosen the set screw and you move the slider until the index on the slider matches the reduction ratio. This machine will go from 1:1 to 16:1. Chuck asked me to tell you about the more conventional use of the pantograph engraver. A lot of the work done on that is making labels, signs, tags, those kinds of things. So here we have a box of Gorton copy. The letters are approximately 3/4 of an inch tall, and in this case I used a reduction of 4:1, and these letters are 1/4 inch tall. So these letters will be set out onto a copy table in exactly the copy you want, traced by this stylus, which follows the copy, and a V-shaped cutter engraves through the outer layer of plastic, revealing the back layer. So in this case I have white over red. Okay, we're here at the workbench, and I want to show you the steps that were used to make this piece and how it fit into this piece. So it started with an ellipse cut out of a tablet back. This was for a wood project, and it had gone into the recycle bin at the time we decided to make this video. So I rushed out there before the garbage man collected it and rescued it. I took the ellipse made out of a tablet back, glued it to pieces of 1/8 inch masonite with 3M spray adhesive. These edges were hardened with a thin CA glue. I just take the glue thing and just run it all the way around, and when it sets, it hardens this, and it's hard enough to bear the pressure of the stylus against it. So these were my originals. These are about 10 inches across and 6 inches wide, and I wanted to go down to 1 inch wide, and let's say, well, it's going to be 5/8 or so in this direction. You can't do this in one step on the Gorton because these are too large. The stylus cannot swing this far, reducing down to this size. So it had to be done in 2 steps. So for example, here is for the medallion, here is the original. I had to make an intermediate, and you can see the track in which the stylus and its roller fit, and that will guide the cutter going around there to make the medallion. And then over here, let me grab this. You can see that. That's an oversized stylus, but it's going to go around inside this. The cutter is going to go inside here and form that. And then in the second reduction, this is the workpiece that will form that. Part of doing machining is making mistakes. So I made a mistake on this one, and I want to show you so that you don't make the same mistake. To make the track in the piece in the intermediate pattern, I had to use a large stylus, and here's what happens going around here. The stylus falls off, and so this pattern should have been placed on a much larger piece of masonite, because at all times you need to make sure that your stylus does not fall off and does not run into clamps. I was having to move clamps all around. It took me a lot longer. So this should have been at least 1 inch wider this way and approximately 1.5 to 2 inches longer on each end this way. I want to show you the second mistake that I made. The very first intermediate pattern that I made for the medallion did not have the closed track that I showed you in the first one. It was open, and that meant that the stylus could fall off, could bump into a clamp, or even worse, looking down at the cutter, it's easy if the stylus falls off of the pattern because it does not have a closed track. It's easy to run the cutter into the clamp. So whenever you are making the medallion, you want to use a closed track in which the stylus is always captive, cannot run off to the outside and fall off the edge or run the cutter into the clamps. We're at the machine. It's set up ready to make a cut. But I want to tell you first a little bit more about the process. The reduction is again done in 2 stages. We're going to start with this, and I've already made the intermediate pattern. The reduction was 3 to 1 from here to here. It is going to be 3 to 1 from the intermediate to the workpiece. Now we'll go down to the workpiece. Piece of black plastic that has been glued to a tablet back. And the reason for that is that the previous owner of this machine was very sloppy about cutting into the table. The table is macked up all over the place. And so to prevent that, I've glued a tablet back to the underside of this workpiece, and I'm only going to cut through until I reach that little bit of paper, and at that point the medallion is finished. Here we go. And we've cut through the paper, and I'm going to go around a couple of times just to make sure that got a good surface finish on the edge, and that is it. We'll retract the cutter. I ran the vacuum for a little bit and cleaned most of the chips off, and while I was doing that, Chuck reminded me to tell you that one of the things that we could have done before we take this medallion out is we could set up the other copy table with the lettered copy that I showed you, and we could engrave something in here, a person's name. We could have engraved any kind of design that a club logo or your own personal logo, your choice. So whatever your heart desires, you could engrave in here. Then you can cut this out, and let's see. There we go. There's our medallion. We'll go off camera for a little bit and clean. Oops, this. Oh, I know. I used two-face tape on that. I didn't glue it. That was sticky tape. So now the edge is a little. The sticky tape got hot and came up on the side. We're going to go clean this off and set up for the pocket in the workpiece, and we'll be right back. While I was setting up for the next operation, Chuck was asking me about the stylus that we used. Now this is an accessory that's sold by the Gorton company, and it has a pin that goes in the stylus holder on the machine, and the pin carries these discs that are various sizes. Unfortunately, the discs are in terms of tenths, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, and 8/10 diameter, and I needed 375, 3/8, so I made my own two discs for the stylus. They're slightly different sizes, and we'll see the reason for that a little later. And then while I was making the closed track on the medallion pattern, I had to use larger stylus discs, and so I just used a scrap that was available in the shop. You could use washers or anything. If you do use washers, make sure that you finish the ID and the OD concentric so you don't cause errors from the operation of the stylus. Okay, we're back at the engraver. Chuck said that he was having trouble seeing the cuts that are made on the white material, so we did a little sloppy job with the marker, and that'll give you some visual contrast. We're about ready to go. Here's the machine going on. We're going to come up, pick up the cut. So that was at 0, and so we're going to go the first cut at 30 thousandths, and here we go. Now we're going to clean out the material on the inside. Now if you're paying attention and thinking about what I was doing, you notice that I both conventional and climb milled. The cuts were light, done in plastic, it wasn't a problem. But if you're making the pocket in a metal workpiece, I would suggest that you conventional cut only. Otherwise the cutter can get away from you, you can lose control over it and have a little bit of a problem. Okay, we're about ready to go for the second cut. This pocket is going to be a 1/16 inch deep and an 1/8 inch material, and so this will be our final cut. We did a little vacuum cleaner action, and we're now ready to try the fit of the medallion in its pocket. There it is. Now, if the medallion had not fit into its pocket, if it was a little big, what you would want to do is go to your lathe and make a new stylus disc that was smaller. If the disc is smaller, then it would allow the cutter to move this way just a little bit and create a slightly bigger pocket. So for example, if you thought, well, I just need, say, 1/1000th, then you would make a new disc that would be 1/1000th times your reduction ratio, which in this case is 3. Put it in the stylus and go around another time, easing this pocket out 1/1000th all the way around, and your part should fit. So you could wind up with a whole box full of styli of different sizes. Get your little engraver out and mark the size on there. Okay guys, there you have it. This is the process, or this has been the process for making a medallion, making a pocket for the medallion to fit in, and it goes just like that. Fits in perfectly. When I started out, I didn't know how to do this. I looked on eBay, whoosh. I looked on Google and YouTube and didn't find a video that showed exactly how to do this. And so what Chuck and I have done this morning is to produce the video that I wish I had found. Thank you very much.